Last week, Tom Henderson posted an article on the newly created Insider Gaming website that stated that Disney want to release 2 Star Wars video games per year, with one ideally being a big AAA game, and the other one being a smaller project like Squadrons or a mobile game. I personally think that this is a great amount of games for us fans, especially as some will get post-launch content and have multiplayer elements as well, and as a result there will always be something for us to play, and it should begin next year with Jedi Survivor and Star Wars Hunters both releasing in 2023, though we don't yet know when, although Survivor is looking like March or April. EA Motive, the creators of Star Wars Squadrons and the campaign of Battlefront 2, announced their brand new Iron Man game the other week as well. It's a third-person action-adventure single-player, and it's in early development right now and seemingly has been since Squadrons ended, as Ian Fraser and many of the Squadrons team seem to be working on it. Motive making this Iron Man game, according to Jeff Grubb, is as a result of the success of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Jeff also states that EA feel it easier to get an established IP off the ground than it is to create a new IP altogether, which is absolutely correct. As a result of this, EA finds that the Disney license fee is worth paying. Now, if you combine all of what I've just said in this video thus far, that got me thinking about Star Wars Battlefront 3, and there's no surprises there. It was said last year by Tom Henderson, I believe, that EA didn't go ahead with Battlefront 3 because they didn't want to pay the licensing fee as it was so much, and yet they feel it's worth paying the fee for an Iron Man single player game, which realistically is riskier than making Battlefront 3, so it honestly doesn't make a lot of sense to me. EA re-established the Battlefront franchise very successfully, albeit with some controversy, but I think that can slide given how successful Battlefront 2 ended up being. Just under a year after content support was pulled, Battlefront 2 went free to play on the Epic Games Store for a week and registered 19 million new players, which is absolutely absurd. If EA were to make Battlefront 3, then they would no doubt sell many copies following the success of Battlefront 2. Everyone knows how much potential Battlefront 3 has, in terms of content and with regards to sales figures. They wouldn't even have to reinvent the wheel either. Battlefront 2 had some great game modes and systems in place, so all they'd need to do is update them and bring them over with new and exciting maps to play on, characters to play as and more, and they'd no doubt be absolutely fine. Not only would sales likely be very high, but if they monetised the game well, then they'd make a ton of money from that as well. They could even make the game free to play. Sure, it wouldn't give EA the initial sales money, but it would probably bring in so many players whereby if you have an in-game store for skins and battle passes, they'd make a ton of money from that instead, and the free week on the Epic Games Store with 19 million new players was absolutely proof of that. I talk a lot about money because that's ultimately what's important to EA, and there's a ton of potential for them to get that. For us as fans though, there's tons of potential for content. Andor is streaming on Disney Plus right now, and there are tons of skins we'd be able to get from that, along with maps, vehicles and heroes. With every TV show, there's so much potential for new content that they'd be able to update the game 2 to 3 times per series with tons of content, and I think that's pretty crazy to think about. Despite all of the potential, I sadly don't think it will happen. A lot of the DICE team who worked on the game have left to go elsewhere, and given that Battlefront 3 was shot down once, they probably won't bother trying again. On the bright side though, Battlefront isn't owned by EA, so anyone could approach Disney and Lucasfilm to make a game with the Battlefront name. I still have hopes that someday there will be a big first-person shooter with space-to-ground elements, but we will just have to wait and see. So guys, do you think Battlefront 3 is more likely to happen now following the announcement of the Iron Man game or not? Be sure to let me know what you think of it in the comments below. That is it from me today though guys, thank you all very much for watching, and may the force be with you always.